Okay, I'm gonna have you introduce yourself first.
Okay. My name's Hunter Anderson. I'm 18 years old. I go to Normandale Community College. I'm a freshman. Um, I was diagnosed with ADHD in the second grade, and about a month after that, I started taking um, a drug, I guess.
Ritalin?
Yeah, Ritalin. Um, and it I remember in like elementary school, I would really notice a difference between taking it and not taking it. Well, I guess I wouldn't, but my teachers would. I would most likely not pay attention in class if I didn't take it, and if I did, I would sitting there be focused. But
Okay. So, how do you see your ADHD manifest in your day to day? How do you think it's most prevalent in your life? What does it affect most?
um, it affects most schoolwork and like writing, and I feel like things I don't necessarily like enjoy doing. So if I'm not very interested in it, I won't focus all that hard on it. Like I won't try all that hard to stay focused. But it's mainly just focusing on things and I guess working on one thing at a time. Um, Also, like I get kind of scatterbrain thoughts, like in between certain things. But
So, how do you think it manifests most when you were a kid, like in school, when you first noticed it?
what I mean, in school, it was like I would be staring out a window or just not like engaged in class, not like I would be, um, like the teacher would be talking and I'd be sitting in the back, like playing with a paperclip or something, like just fidgeting with a small like object,
Mm-hmm.
not really paying attention.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so then how do you think it manifests outside of the classroom? Like, what did your family notice about it, or like, what could you say that?
Well, my family noticed really that like I would randomly say things like I they'd be talking about like say a new table we got or something, and I'd be sitting there thinking about the table and then being like, oh, this is higher than our table. Well, maybe it's just the chairs, and then I'd think, oh, me and my sister broke a chair, and then I'd be like, oh, I busted a hole in a door when I was mad at my sister, and then I'd just shout out, "Oh, Sam, remember when I broke that door?" And everyone else would be like, "What? Like, where'd that come from?" Because they wouldn't have gone the same path I have. They'd just be talking about the table, and then I'd be sitting there like, "What? Remember?" And then Sam would be like, "Yeah, I remember, but why?" And then I'd continue thinking. Everyone else would try and connect the points. Then after that, I'd say something else that doesn't make any sense, and they'd try and connect the dots. So it was
Perfect.
it was kind of confusing for them, but for me, it all made sense until I got really far, and then it wasn't even close to the topic we started on.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you think teachers have done that's been the most helpful for you, either in your IEP or outside of your IEP, just in the classroom?
Um. Well, outside of my IEP, like in elementary school, uh, the teacher would like remind me of small things like, oh, hey, remember this is like due, um, either tomorrow or the next day, whenever, just like small little reminders. But inside my IEP, in like high school and in middle school, they tried to get me to organize a lot more and like use planners and calendars and all this to know when everything's due and just make sure that I know like when things need to be done and complete.
Perfect. Okay, so what do you think your like greatest strength is, or like your biggest like coping mechanism with ADHD? And then what do you think your biggest like weakness is, or the thing you struggle the most with it?
Um, I guess my biggest strength or coping
Mm-hmm.
mechanism for it is now, I guess a couple weeks ago, I had stopped taking my Ritalin because I would forget to take it and not notice a difference between like me being off like it and me being on it. So when I would be off it, I would realize I get distracted and say, "Oh, hey, like I need to focus on this. I need to sit down and work on this really heavily and um, like focus on it." But my biggest weakness, I guess, is sitting down and talking to someone because I'll notice something in the background or like outside, whatever, and realize that and then forget what I'm talking about and stutter and then not know what I'm talking about.
So you think when it comes to school, you're able to identify it and then combat it by using strategies to focus, but then when you're in your everyday life, it kind of slips up and you still
Yeah, mainly
notice it.
because in school, I'm more focusing on the ADHD and like realizing, oh, I'm getting distracted. I need to work on this. In my everyday life, it's kind of like I guess I slip back into my like normal self, and I guess living with ADHD is my normal self, so I get distracted and not really know like why, but yeah.
Okay. Okay, so what do you think, um, what advice do you have for future teachers who might have a student like you in their classroom? Or what do you wish that your teachers would have known about you or about ADHD?
I guess what I wish my teachers would have known is like when I'm trying to write a paper or like trying to think through something, I start with the first, like, say, a math problem, and I'll work through it, like, certain points and get to the end. But then once I'm at the end, I'll forget what's in the middle, like how I got there. So, I would, I guess I would like to have them realize that I forget, like, the middle part of what I'm doing so that they could then either have me take notes as I'm doing it and work through each point, or I guess in elementary school, since I would think way too fast compared to like my writing, I would want them to write it down for me, like as I'm talking through it, or if I'm like writing a paper, I guess I would have liked them to uh, like write as I speak, like I'd be kind of telling them the story and they write it down for me and then I go back and edit it. Um, but for people, teachers going into classrooms that have uh, kids with disabilities like ADHD, I would say just try to like listen to your students and try to understand that I guess they might think a different way or get to a certain point a different way than you might. So try and help them work through it to get to the final answer instead of telling them, like, oh, hey, this is how you should do it and this is the way we're going to do it in class, I guess.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah.